is on interaction with student startups. Moderator for this session is Mr. Yash, who is founder of OpenFuel. Our panelists for this session are Mr. Varun Satyam, founder of Turnup, Mr. Roopesh Chinni, founder of Cybercubes, Mr. Sharad Parekh, founder of Straut, Mr. Yash, Shah, CEO of Gridle, Ms. Manasvi, founder of Felicious. Saxena, sir, you can take it.
Okay, so welcome to this session. Our theme is obviously on student startups, so we're going to listen to all of these 5 startups who we have here. And the interesting thing is that we have all of these startups are from different sectors. So the first startup is from IT sector. The second is an IoT device startup, Cybercube. Sharad is a founder of a startup which works in energy. Yash Shah works in enterprise software, and Manasvi works in healthcare, food and fitness domain. So we will. I'm sure like we have different kind of opinions because the domains of all of these startups are different. We'll divide this entire session into 3 parts. We first go through the experiences of these startups who are here. We're then going to go through the challenges, and then the third part would be the way forward, which we will leave open to the discussants and possibly to the audience as well. And then we can conclude the session. So since we are short on time, so I'll quickly go over to the startups who are here. So Varun, who is founder of Turnup. Varun, why don't you start? Yeah. So Varun, you have 3 minutes. Okay.
Hello. 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 Yeah. So I started my startup when I was in third year of my engineering, and as Yash said, when like this major impact was from AICT. So in similar way, when I was frustrated with my engineering, when we were not coming up with professional skills like ready to absorbable skills, and the academics was way behind what is actually happening in the IT industry. The technologies that we were learning is 20 years behind than what is actually happening. So that was the time when we wanted to learn something from ourselves, and that is what we tried to do by doing IT services. So we started as IT services, tried to equip ourselves with those skills so that we could build products that we wanted to. And then now we have started building our own products, and as I'm out of my engineering, now we will be focusing on releasing our products. So one of the products that we are working on is on education domain, another is on digital advertising. And as a student, the major challenges that I faced from the college institutions is like the kind of mentality people are having when people are there in academics. Like if we go to professors and if we go to higher officials. So what happens is like everyone sees us like kids. So if you go and tell them anything, their intention is like, dude, you are still a kid. We have seen a lot of world more than you. We have a lot of experience. We have seen many people starting like it and they never succeeded. So what they say is like, why are you wasting your time here? You are here to graduate. Just focus on your graduation and then go for a good job. So that is one of the things. Second part of the thing is, as Yash was telling about the problem of final year projects in the previous session. So this is also one of the things that I see, like as we are also working with a digital platform in sv.co. So what they are trying to build up there is like equip the students with skills ready from the first year of college itself, where the whole process of startup from idea discovery to prototyping to customer validation, so all those phases goes on. So in what happens is like when a student is there in the early stage itself, so if he comes in that when he's in the first year of engineering itself, so even if he fails, he still has his age and time to recover that and still go on. But what is happening is things are going on a very slow pace because there is so much restriction both from the college perspective, then from the market perspective. So when initiatives like this, what AICT has been taking, it will boost up in terms of the mentality of what a student can leverage from these things, and they can fast track the process. Like the achievements that we could have that we made in around 1 year, if this policy was there, or if we had support from the college, we might have achieved it in 2 months or 3 months. So and like what happens is, like in the initial stage itself, very early, the student or whomsoever it is, they should be able to know that whatever they are building, whether there is a market for it or not, or will that product sustain or not. So in the initial stages, if the process is fast tracked, the student recognizes that where he is lacking and all, then it is easier for them to equip themselves with those skills and then building on into a product that is sustainable. So next thing that I would like to say is, like I would suggest that there should be a channel in which like when the students are feeling the heat, they are not able to do, when the colleges are not allowing them to do, and a process in which they can connect to the policy makers, like if AICT is building the policy and helping fostering the students. So we can go and ask or help or complain about what is not happening inside that is being implemented in the policy, if the colleges are violating it. So we can raise our voice and we can go through the channels.
Okay, Varun, thank you. Yash. So Yash is like one of the very hardened. He's spent a lot of his time in trenches. He has evolved his product over the years, and I'm sure that he could also tell us about his earlier startup when he, which was probably a precursor to his current startup. So we could know what are the kind of things which led you to initiate, and then how you actually came through the whole journey.
So we three people, three co-founders, and when we started off, we also started off in our third year, so we were working on this blogging platform which had absolutely no way or no way into the market, or where we could potentially generate revenue or anything, or even build a sustainable company in the future. Obviously we didn't know it then. And when we started off, we still just wanted to build something that was meaningful, that would be out there, and people could use it, and things like that. The kind of dreams that students have of taking over the world, and so on and so on. And while we were doing that, and we were lost, we were in 3 different locations when we were working on that project, and we realized that we were facing a problem of working together. We were in Mumbai, Ahmedabad and Gandhinagar, and we were using, so 3 people were using 5 things to work together. And that kind of formed the basis of the company that we have up and running today. So that's essentially that we spoke to companies as well, considering that if 3 friends who had known each other for over 5 years were facing issues working together, then probably companies and employees also do. And so we spoke to about 200 people, from 33 companies, and realized that there was an actual problem to solve. We started that company as well, post our colleges got over, left our jobs, and we've currently been incubated at CII. We've raised 2 small rounds of funds as well. We are a 10 people team serving about 195 companies with Gridle. And I think that's pretty much it. So one of the things that we did do, so one of the things that colleges could probably do or help is teach students how to do their research properly, understand how to validate whatever idea that they have in an actual market, because that could reduce the cost of learning for these students in terms of time, effort and money altogether. And I see that as one of the major factors why our first startup failed. It's easy to say that in hindsight, because it's been over 2 years since that happened. But when we remember the kind of discussions that we were having, now it feels like they were completely and totally baseless. So if there is some way of enabling students who dream of taking over the world, just to make them, just to give them a tight slap and to reality, then that would help out a lot. So if we can figure out a way to do that.
Thank you, Yash. Okay, so next I'll go to Roopesh. I'm sure Roopesh has also a very interesting story because he started in the second year of his college. And Roopesh, you can tell a lot of things which happened around your studies and how those challenges almost broke you.
Yeah, actually,
Not audible.
yeah, actually we started our startup as a student startup. Hello. Yes. In 2012 December, I gathered 15 people in my college, and I started doing services in web development, web designing, and search engine optimization. And we started our startup like that. And in 2014, we started our development in product in interactive system solutions. We developed a product in interactive system which fills the gap between the user to present their devices, products, everything in interactive way. And when in 2000, from 2014 we started working on it, and when it was completed by 2015 August, and when we are into the launching stage, we almost incorporated our company and start selling our product. Then I listened the word from my college. I was beaten from the college due to the lack of attendance. I have 40% of attendance and I was beaten. At that time, unfortunately, Mr. Sanjay Vijay Kumar visited our incubation center over there in Vizag, and he noticed my problem, and he called to Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, and he mentioned, he explained my problem, and then I was again returned to my college. And actually, we have Mr. Chandrababu Naidu, CM of Andhra Pradesh, he himself takes an initiative of entrepreneurship, and he implemented the policy himself, drafting like all the incentives from the government, like providing the physical space and providing the student with 40% of 20% of attendance and 5% of grace marks in the final language. Everything he was drafted very well. But the thing is, we don't know how to gain all those incentives from the government. Almost I was beaten from the college, and I was back to the college due to some third person. He was our Sanjay Vijay Kumar. That's the thing. There is no proper channel to connect with the policy makers. That's the only loop in every policy.
Okay. Thank you, Roopesh. I'll go to Sharad. Sharad, you can also share with us your journey of how you went from one startup to second startup and how it folded.
Hello. So I started back in 2010 when I passed out from the D1, and we started with entering into a generic goods of the solar thermal technologies. So over a period of time, we understand that we can hold on with this particular technology. So then we started developing through few innovative technologies, and then the problem we faced is, so basically it takes 6 years for me to reach to the final product, which is right now in the market as the Straut. And the biggest problem is that we didn't have any resources to develop that product. Basically, we went into hardware product, and it is really difficult for the student to develop hardware product. The reason is that you can't get money from your parents. People can't invest in your company when basically you are a student. So basically, so the thing is that what I wanted to tell is that we already have like resources into university and colleges, but we were not able to use that resources. Like if you want to build something, a small part, the arrow which we actually developed, it was possible to manufacture the same thing in our existing lab, which already every student has the meeting in the lab, but we were not able to use that just because of no proper guidelines for that. So if we can allow a student to use that existing resources, maybe they can build something very faster, because the biggest the gap between is for the startup from going from idea to a final prototype, it takes a long time. It took 2.5 years for us to reach that particular level, and students already spent their 4 years into college. So if they can utilize that particular time, maybe they can roll out their product faster once they will be out of the college.
Thank you, Sharad. Okay, I go to Mansi now. Mansi, you are the only women entrepreneur on the panelist, so you could also touch briefly upon the gender issues because we talk a lot about women entrepreneurship these days. And then you can obviously also talk about your other experiences as you started up.
Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Mansi Sarvaiya and I'm the founder of Fitilicious. So it's a healthy food brand that I started. I'm in a very early phase of my startup. It's just been 6 months. But me being a doctor, when I started talking about healthy food, everybody started looking at me like, why do you want to make it? So it was very difficult for me to convince people that I can do business and I want to start doing and working for the better on the long run, because I keep telling my patients that obviously prevention is better than cure, and I keep advocating that. But there's nothing in the market that can help find that stuff for them. So there's no healthy food out there that they can easily, conveniently get available to them and that they can incorporate into their diet. So I thought I would take it upon myself and start building it myself. And the challenge that I faced was I didn't have the resources. I don't understand business that well, being from medical background. So I started looking for places that would help me in building a strategy, a business plan and everything. That's when I found the incubator at IIM. So the CII has incubated the project and now they are helping me figure out how I can take this on a bigger scale. So that exactly obviously.
Would you also like to touch any gender issues over here on entrepreneurship?
That's a very touchy topic, but
okay.
Yes. But obviously, yeah, people don't take me that seriously when I say that I'm doing this. So I have my partner, as my brother is a partner, so he comes, I take him for the meetings, because when I talk about stuff, people are like, okay, you don't know what you're talking about. So I do get that a lot. Okay. So that is fun.
Our participants have already highlighted a lot of challenges that they face. So I like to go back to our participants over 3 different issues under the challenges. So briefly, I just divide all of these challenges into 3 parts. One is your the challenges that you may find within your academics, obviously around your studies, pedagogy, were you not taught a certain kind of course, or you would have wanted your teachers to be more willing to help you out. Second would be that in general, how is the college administration, the e-cell, the student bodies helping you out in your entrepreneurship dreams. And third is friends and families. So each of you, can you highlight under each 3 of these topics the challenges that you faced? So I'll just go back again around studies, around administration and student bodies, and around friends and families. Like maybe 1 or 2 challenges under each of these 3 heads. So we can start from Yash.
It's like a constraint that you have, right? So just like you have a constraint of 24 hours a day, you have a constraint that you have to have an 80% we had 70% attendance in your college. I mean, if the government does something about it, then it's obviously helpful, but it's not something that because of that I was not able to start a company. So that was that. Secondly, so one of the major challenges that I faced obviously was when I had to leave a job to start the company. So I previously worked as an investment banker. It was a good enough salary, about 6.5 lakhs per annum. So leaving that, convincing your parents, that was one of the hardest things that I've had to do, apart from the 6th push-up. But yeah, so I essentially told my parents and I asked them for a year of my time, that if in 1 year I'm not able to, if you don't see me on a path that you approve of, then I'll go back to doing something that you approve of. So that was there from family. As far as friends are concerned, they're really cool. I mean, they think that I'm doing something great, so that's obviously helpful. That motivates you as well. I think that's it.
You can also touch upon topics like if you had an e-cell or if you had an college incubator, it would have helped, like, those kind of things. And you can disagree with each other, please do. I think he's done.
So our college, so I'm from NIT Surat, so our college just started an e-cell about a couple of years ago, and they've asked for a lot of alumni who started up to come and speak. And one of the first things that I say, oh, go over there. And so actually I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship, that there's an ecosystem, startups, entrepreneurship, mentors, investors, and everything that exists while I was in my college. I came to know about it in my final year when, Hiranmay being my senior, he helped me get an internship over here at IIM Ahmedabad. That was when I came to know. So one of the first things that I say when I go to my college now and deliver a lecture with the e-cell is that if there was someone who had told me when I was in my first year that something like this already exists, then that would have been great. And consider this as a head start that you already have. Right? So that's one of the things. So e-cells definitely help.
Yeah. So coming on to me, I didn't face much problems in terms of family or friends and whatever I was doing, because I have been more of independent since when I was in 10th standard or so. So my decisions in life is mostly concerned with me. So my family doesn't interfere in what I want to do. So that is one of the things. In terms of friends, I didn't face the problem. The problem you don't face with friends is because most of the people, they don't know and understand what a startup is. Even the people who are doing a startup don't understand what a startup is. If you ask any person what is the difference between a startup and a business, most people don't know. So that is one of the awareness that I feel should be there. And there should be a definition of a startup, even if it is in a policy, so that the people should understand that what actually is a startup is, and they are not wasting their time out there. So that is one of the things. The second thing is, because things have been glamorized more, and also that is what pulls people to come into startup and all. In terms of PR and whatever is done, only the good side of startup is being shown. So what actually the real heat inside the startup is what people don't know about. So that what makes everyone very excited. They come on to doing a startup, and mostly what people understand of doing a startup is like updating your Facebook status as founder of whatever you're starting. So after that they try to do something, and when that is the time when they are trying to do something, then they figure out that okay, this thing is not workable, and then they stop it. So that is why you will see that most of the startups at the early stage itself, within the time it starts, within the 6 months it stops. Okay, and the ones who are able to sustain for more than a year or 2 years are the ones that are able to scale it up. So this is one of the concerns in which people should be able to see. The second thing, in terms of e-cell and all, I have seen some colleges where e-cell are existing, but the problem is those cells are being carried out by faculty members, and faculty members do not understand about what is the trend going in the market. And another thing is because the kind of people who are handling that, they are the people, most of the people that I have seen, I don't know about how much knowledge I have, but 80% to 85% of people that I have seen, they themselves neither had any startup before. So they do not actually know that on ground level what are the key challenges and how to overcome that. So mostly what they have seen is their articles that they read from 42 Your Story and all those things. So as every one of us knows that what goes on out in the media and what is actually there happening inside. So that is one of the things. So reading those stuffs and all, then they start guiding us that you have to do this and that. They do not know actually what happens when you go and deal with the actual customer. The psychology and mentality of the customer is different and what it is being mentioned. So these challenges and all are being faced when an e-cell is being governed by people who have themselves do not have any experience of a startup and have not been able, even if they have an experience of startup, they have not been able to hit the next curve. Like they are not being able to build successful startups and then come on to there. So yeah, that is what one of the concerns.
So basically about this study, what I personally feel about is that we basically when you are doing a startup and when you look back to your study, there is a huge difference. What we have studied, that is more theoretical stuff, and what you are doing is a whole technical thing. I mean, every day you need to find new questions and the answer at the same time. So, biggest problem which I found with our existing academic system is that I went to MIT to receive an award for one of the technology, and I found that every student, either it is from the undergraduate or graduate, they need to spend at least 20 hours a week to do some sort of the research. Either they can do research under their professor, or they can go and take internships into a startup. The similar system doesn't exist in India. So when the people actually go out into the market, they actually don't know what the things exactly exist in the market. They don't understand what they actually need to do. So that is one biggest thing where I find the biggest gap in the Indian system and the US system. The second major thing is about that if I know today, if I know what I know, maybe if I know it earlier, maybe we can at some other level. So the mentorship is a very biggest problem we have. But the student which are into college, if they can get a mentorship, not of that level, but even if the beta level, where they can actually get a complete knowledge about that whether they should go with this idea or not, maybe they can choose the path very earlier, or they can leave that path very earlier. And about the friend, family, and glorious, definitely I am the guy I wasted my 1.5 years in enjoying the glory and that glamorous phase, because I'm the guy who won this Global Students. I was the finalist at Global Students Entrepreneur Award back in 2012, and then I wasted completely 1.5 years, and no one was there to tell me that you should not do this thing and you should actually do this thing. So I actually wasted that thing. So yes, that is a very huge problem.
No one was there to tell you.
No, but there.
Yes, apart from all these, ecosystem really matters because Yash told that there is no need of depending on the government for all this stuff. But the thing is, in Visakhapatnam, we are from Visakhapatnam, the South Indian, we don't have proper resources. Like you guys, you have in your university, you find one developer code and everyone. But the thing is, in our college, we find the street guys. We don't find a coder designer lower. Actually, that's the main thing. What makes us to spend more time on startup? Yeah, that's it.
Being in a medical college, I don't know how they would have been able to help me out with that. But I guess parents should allow their kids to innovate. That would be the first step. In India, people just think you should do all the conventional stuff like being a doctor, being engineers, and doing business is something that you do when you don't get any other degrees. So even for me to convince my parents, it was very difficult to stop going to the hospital and focusing on this for full time. They think I'm not helping people right now, but I am actually trying to help people in another sort of way. I'm trying to balance both at the same time. But yes, it would be great if colleges do incorporate programs where they allow students to innovate.
Okay, so I think through our second phase, and I'll just sort of summarize the kind of things that are So I will be going to them before. So the things on which the challenges which have been put forth by the startup founders are one of them is like, how do you get to know about what startups are, about the government scheme, incentive schemes, what they should be doing early in their colleges. How, you know, everybody feels that if they had started earlier, they could have saved more time, they could have reached where they have reached now a little earlier. Maybe mentorship could have helped them, maybe more information, resources, inputs at an earlier level in their academia could have helped them. They have also put forward the problem that how do you bridge the skill level gap between the startups and the and what they actually study, and then there's this other thing that startups have been glamorized. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because if these startups are not glamorized, then it would become very difficult for startup founders to get more teammates to come and join them. So I think it's a double-edged sword. So up to the discussants, we could maybe start from the middle, from Satya sir going right and then left.
Okay, I think just want to share some ideas on the student startups. What are the big experience that we have in terms of the campus-based startup? I think the students having a lack of domain-specific knowledge. That whenever they're talking about an idea, they might have studied something, but they also should know that what is happening in different industry sectors. So without having a type of challenge the industry is facing, creating a solution for them is a problematic. I'll just narrate some of the points. If you need explanation, I can get back. Then they try to solve some campus-specific problem. Whenever I'm trying to talk about the student startup, most of the students are trying to solve something which they have seen in the campus. So somebody is trying to sell books, somebody is trying to give a photocopy, or somebody is trying to give it, which is across various campuses, people are doing a similar type of activity. That shows that they try to solve a very smaller problem. We are not helping them to visualize a larger problem which they can solve at a point of time. And whether those particular problems having a scalability or not, means can they solve a larger problem with the type of concept they're talking about. To respond to that, what can be done at this point of time? That entrepreneurship, I don't think is as a course which is typically given in various undergrads campus right now. It should be a continuous process. So one course at one term won't have a meaning. It should be a continuous process. Every stage that you're learning something, you need to be supported by a bit of a mentorship or bit about some additional knowledge. So at that point of time, I think MOOCs and other online tools which can be given specific content about a specific type of project I'm working will be a lot more meaning. Students will have a problem in terms of the ideation stage also. What is the type of problem they try to solve? So identifying the problem and solving it in various manner, I think that problem solving approach that needs to be discussed. We need to create co-working space where the students can work beyond the classroom hours along with themselves and the students from other places also, they can start working. Beyond the co-working, from ideation to co-workspace, from that is a prototype. Today, many prototype funding options are available. Let's say various CSR fundings are available to create prototypes. So how this prototype funding options can be channelized to the campus, how the students can get the funding so that they can work on the prototype, and subsequently beyond prototype, how they can implement that particular idea. So if you want to work on this particular aspect, I think we can create more number of startup packets at the campus.
So basically what we have done in the startup abusing word is, we have narrowed down the definition of startup. What we understand of startup these days is, anything which becomes online is a startup. So we are not changing the business basically, we are just making it online and we are calling ourselves startups. So what Sunil sir very rightly said is about manufacturing startups. Startups at the time of agriculture. So that is the kind of startups the country needs. We don't want online startups. What are we basically doing is, we are just copying the West and changing the names here and just coming up with startups. So we have to understand our country's dynamics and accordingly play with it. So then only we have a country-specific startups, the territory-specific startups. The other observation which the country have is, we consider startup failures as a big stigma. Those people, who are the basic startup players? The startup players are those people who don't get jobs. This is the mindset. We don't create our startup players as heroes. Look at university. What do they say? They have so many, they've given jobs to so many students, but they never say that we have created 2 startups. We don't do this. We don't create heroes out of startups. So that mindset has to be changed. That mindset university, at the university level have to be changed. Then only the investor level will be changed. So if 2 startups come out from a university, that is a huge achievement for that university, for that institution. But what do we popularize is, in our brochures, our website is 200 jobs we have created. So this mindset is a major change, and this should come from the education sector itself. Then only the startups will move ahead. Then the other thing is funding, a very important part. But what we have to understand about funding is, where is this funding coming from? Are we creating, in one of our series with EDII, are we creating hundreds of East India companies? We have to understand this. Where is this funding coming from? Are Indian investors interested in investing in Indian startups? We are glamorized by Jack Ma's coming to our country. We are glamorized by Paytm, by SoftBank coming to our country. We are glamorized by Amazon coming to our nation, but we are not glamorized by Binny Bansal going and investing in some of the Israeli startup or a UK startup or a US startup. So we have to understand this. What are we doing? We are creating hundreds of East India companies. We are the largest nation with the largest consumer. with the open nation. So we are the largest market. So that is why they are going to come to us. We don't need their fund. We have to create our own fund. We need to nurture more venture nursery. We need to have more SB. This is what we have to understand. This seed should come from education institutes only. The requirement of startups is not much. They require an AC room, they require an internet connection, and then they can do anything they want to do. They don't require initial fund. They just require a space and a proper guidance and mentorship. And then they can take it on. Thank you.
I'll take the luxury to change the sequence because you're touching the topic of funding, and I think Atit might have something to add over the funding. And Atit, can you also add, it's easy to actually run a software startup, but what are the ways in which we can even go on to fund some hardware startup, and whatever your views on that are?
Well, I sorry.
You can also tell about
so I'm Atit Bajaj. I run a crowdfunding platform where we've done a lot of work with GPU where we experimented on training the local startups and telling them it is okay to fail. We genuinely did that over here. Like he asked me about manufacturing startup and funding, I have always seen that crowdfunding can be a method of say finding your first 1,000 customers. Right, finding the first 1,000 customers. There are 3 ways we can get money: by debt, by equity, or from the customer. So if we try and get a method in which we can get advance payment from the customer, that is what crowdfunding is per se. But what I have seen over here with a lot of students is that yes, if they get 50,000 rupees, they can change like a lot what they can do with their own life from tomorrow. And that is the basic amount that is required. So many structures, so many policies, and like Manasvi said, a space. Like at ACPC, we've seen a lot of students come and spend time. They might have not become very big, but they got that freedom. Like someone mentioned that parents generally stop startups from trying new things and all. But there were so many people who were coming there part-time. They would come at 4 o'clock and work from there. So if more co-creation centers like this can be made and an initial fund of say maybe just a 50,000 lakh rupees can be given to these startups, a lot can happen. And glamorizing startups, I think it should be done, and the biggest brand ambassador of the country currently is holding up the board of Startup India, Stand Up India. So I don't think we should even debate about that. That is the way forward. Thank you.
Can you also briefly touch upon the issue of that founders have brought upon that ECELs are run by faculties who may not be the best people to advocate? Sorry, the participant brought it up, so we have to take
Good afternoon, Rahul. I work with
But cross-check the data. We will come back. Please.
So, I work with Ukraine Foundation. So good afternoon, I work with Ukraine Foundation. I've been helping universities in the government of Gujarat formalize some of the startup initiatives. And I started up just after I finished my 12th, and so I started up in the first year, and I think it's very important that students in universities are encouraged from the day zero about entrepreneurship. Not everyone will be an entrepreneur, of course, not everyone will start up. 1 to 5% will, and it's important that they get the encouragement and motivation from day zero. I did not get that, and if I had, maybe I would have done better. The second thing I want to touch upon is we really need to focus upon pre-incubation and pre-seed funds, like it has been brought up. So startup do not require a lot of funding from day zero to, let's say, day 100 or day 300, but they need some level of support. So pre-incubation and pre-seed support is necessary. And yes, it's very important that these pre-incubation centers are run by entrepreneurs, because you can't have faculty or administrative guys or someone from a different domain come in and run those centers, because if we look at some of these incubators or co-working space or pre-incubation centers that are working in Gujarat, and some of them are flourishing, and quite a few of them have those people. Maybe there must be managers from faculty, there must be managers from MBAs and stuff like that. But there are people in terms of mentors or permanent mentors or permanent guides who are always there and who come from entrepreneurship background. And it's very important that we formalize whatever this is happening from the top of the road. So I would like to congratulate Chairman Sir for taking up this initiative, because we've seen a lot of discussion about bringing in a mindset change, bringing in a cultural change, and unless the top guys start saying that, and unless that trickles down to the bottom of the pyramid, we cannot have that cultural change. If the AICT chairman and the GT vice chancellor start saying, and you guys are already saying that, and then the faculty start saying, okay, starting up is important, is good, and you are doing good, then the parents would also align to that ideology, to that mindset. So that's very important. Thank you.
Hello. I'm Jatin. I'm the founder of EDII. So EDII is more of a community of entrepreneurs. So we work in 40 cities, and over the period of 7 years, we were able to meet a lot of interesting people. So one of the things I believe is that starting up is very important. The fundamental job of a university, or ideally we should do, is help people acquire skills. And it should not be that startup is the flavor of the season. So let's one interesting course around entrepreneurship and try to get those mentors who are like startups. So a role a university can play is being an enabler. So it could be two things. A, very specific to the subject that the university is supposed to taught them. So do you do a better job at that? B, do you do a better job at this things that are going to be the future? So if people talk about IoT, people talk about a lot of other interesting stuff. So does university doing some role in helping students achieve that, and playing a role of an enabler. So generally, it is so constrained that in every university has their own good boys, bad boys. The world, so many things are happening. The MOOCs are happening. So many industry associations are there. Everybody in every city, you name a city, and I'll be able to tell you 10 things in that city. They are doing a lot of interesting. So do students in that college are about it, or is the universities are feeling threat that they will not tell their student that something great is happening somewhere else, or if they don't know, then that question is university also. You are not aware about what is happening somewhere else. So do you do that job of educating someone, or your job is just to educate somebody who was enrolled in that particular course and teach them, and now suddenly the startup has come up, so we'll teach them something on the startup. So idea is that as an educator we should be aware about what is happening in the world. So if we are not that good, even if you try to get that guy to our level or our level of understanding, probably will not do a great job at that. So this is where on the other side, students, the fundamentally we should be able to tell them, what the world is full of resources. Can we enable them to achieve those things? People just become victim of circumstances. The students, there are examples on either side. There are people like Dahod is a city in Gujarat. It has become one of the smart city also. So there is a guy in there who is doing a diploma. A couple of years back, he was part of Google Summer Course. Even the DIICTs or IITs feel very happy about becoming part of it. So a guy from Dahod can do that. Can we learn from that example? And so systematic change will happen when it will happen. But then there are examples that people are already succeeding. So can we learn from that and try to enable more people around that? So this could be my 2 points.
Gautham, I have some questions to you, and you might be able to tell them with your experience. So Professor Satya spoke about how do we make our students to work on problems worth solving? How do we make them improve the quality of problems they solve? And do you feel that the kind of students you get, because I guess a lot of students who came to you in the Visakhapatnam center might not have had great problems that they were solving. So how do you push them to improve the quality of problem solving?
So just to cross a couple of premises that we based on, I think. So I'd like to paraphrase an ex-IIT HOD. He said that what IITs primarily do is run a great process of getting great candidates to come to IITs and just get out of the way. Let them do what they want. I think that's a philosophy a lot of colleges can embody to a certain degree, which I think will yield great results. Another thing is that I don't think educational institutions, even in the current form, do in any way hamper the spirit of entrepreneurship. What it maybe does as part of being a legacy system is that it slows down entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs emerge out of it nevertheless. But touching upon the point that Yash wanted me to address, what I've noticed is that, we have had in the first phase of startup industry over 7,000 applications. if you were to do some analysis on it, we were able to put those applications into 15 different buckets. I mean, that's the range of ideas that we saw. And so this is not something that we can blame on the students or think the students are in any way incapable of coming up with ideas. See, most of them have a very windshield level view. It's almost like they're riding a car, they get to see what's around them. Someone who's been in the industry is almost like riding a chopper or a plane. They get to see far beyond the horizon that a normal kid gets to see. So what we feel, I feel personally, is that if we can build some sort of industry-academia connection, wherein the ideas from the industry find its way to the academia. So thinking along that lines, what we also notice is that, see, you can't expect kids to go out there and be able to spot a mature idea that has that's a good problem to solve and a good business to build. They can only do through experience. But what we can do as educational institutions is that, see, if we are able to harbor a culture that is not individual performance oriented, like our education systems embody right now, like individual marks. There is no team. It's only when we get to the point of a final year project that we do see an extensive team-oriented effort happening. So if we build early team-oriented efforts, iterative-based efforts, that does not really discourage them to make mistakes. If you're able to build that, the industry will find a way to get to them because the industry wants them. So the moment the internal culture within an education institution is able to harbor mature ideas, and that is possible right now. This wouldn't have been possible 10 years earlier. Because nowadays, kids in colleges, students and teams in colleges think of the internet as a natural extension of their brain. I mean, the amount of self-learning, peer learning, and pull-based learning that can happen is enormous. It would be fanciful to think that a faculty can come in and impart that level of knowledge to these students. What we must rely on is possibly their self-learning ability, their peer learning ability to work together in groups 24/7 and produce great results. If we are able to enable that, the industry will find its way. It's already finding its way in ways that even we cannot imagine. So it's already happening, just that the internal ecosystem has to be possibly altered from the existing mechanism so as to harbor this more. I think that sort of addresses your question. So maybe exemplifying.
Three PowerPoints.
Sorry? Yeah, maybe just possibly exemplifying that. So what we have done is that we have built a robust mechanism to attract a lot of student startups. And we have an industry partner in place who curates ideas. So we work with the industry partner for like a 6-month period and curate ideas that we think are market ready. And then we expose these idea sets to a large student pool and let them choose an idea of their choice. Now, the moment we get the industry veterans to curate ideas, there's a certain amount of ownership that comes from the industry veterans, which means they are also actively interested in mentoring the startup that chose their idea. This builds an organic industry-academia connect, and we are running an experiment along that lines, and we'll be happy to share any results that we get out of it on a periodic basis. Yeah.
Thank you, Gautham. So, to sort of sum up, and then the points which have been thrown up are, one is that there is this problem of increasing the view of the students. They need to get a better view of the industry. And then there is also the point of increasing the, giving the students better market kind of skills which sort of bridge them and get them closer to what the market or even the startups would need. So I think we need to have a more structured startup internship programs across colleges.
So see, more than internship, I think if the regulatory body or the policy making body can create an environment which actively encourages from a system level for students to self-grow and start working on their own ideas. See, if we can reward academically, if we can reward in terms of degree, all of them work in the favor.
So, do you think startup internship would be a practical way to start?
Startup internship sounds like a great idea. If you're exposing internship opportunity within other startups, or even being able to, students being able to tap into their neighboring colleges and all of that would work. But I think a system that actually incentivizes self-mobilization. In terms of actual degree level and marks level and entrance level, and let's say in terms of credits level, whatever, if that can be encouraged, this would automatically happen, is what I feel.
And Satya sir, like there is this issue of how do you make your faculties entrepreneurial? How do you increase their grade that they really satisfy the hunger of the entrepreneurs? They do not go back and complain that they should not be in the ESET. what are the processes, maybe 3 PowerPoints you think we could do about it?
Can you repeat again?
Like how do we improve, how do we get our faculties to possibly get to a level where they would be good enough for our entrepreneurs, for our campus
Okay, I think the
entrepreneurs?
faculty need to learn more the way, whatever we are suggesting that not many online tools are available to learn and upgrade beyond the INC 42 or your story. I think he has also started up the same, so the people are reading the similar things. So we need to have, being a faculty, to upgrade ourselves in terms of whatever the changes that is taking place, and that type of input needs to be provided back to the students so that students can feel their upgrade.
Okay, so then 2 more inputs from Professor Rao and from Prasanna.
Yeah.
Professor Chaudhary.
Yes.
Actually, I mean, I've already formed some startups. I do run my businesses. I think a lot of faculties in India, I mean, we're not allowed to do a lot of other stuff outside our mandate to teach and do research. So, for example, I have learned immensely by setting up several businesses. Some of them failed. I mean, the film exhibition business is started 5 years back, failed. The pharma company struggled. The other hospital business is doing well. Some businesses are doing well, some of them are not well. But I mean, the kind of learning I learned from those experiences which I bring into the classroom is immense. I don't think I've learned anything from my MBAs and other things. I have a lot of training I've attended and so. So I think as a faculty members should be given some exposure. I don't know. It's my whole individual interest to do startups, and thankfully my organization didn't object to what I was doing from my mandate what I was doing as a professor. The safety net I had was the professor because I was teaching, so I couldn't worry about my livelihood. I was kind of took a lot many experience with other things I could do. I really don't know what other faculty members would have gone through, and but Professor Satya and others, I think it's not easy to, I mean, how do you do multiple things being as a mandate ASP regulated institution, you have a faculty member, you have to have 9 hours in institution, back home you have a family to other things to cater to, and you find a time out to do some businesses. Professor Anil Gupta does several things in IIM apart from being a professor. And Professor Satyam also does something similar work in terms of angels and funding and other platform. Some professors do, I think maybe we are exceptions or whatever we do.
When you work with the startups, I think obviously the faculty will also upgrade themselves, because the students will go to ask that type of question that faculty need to upgrade themselves.
It's not an academic problem, right? In corporates, don't quote me on this, but in corporates, 98% of the people are not suited to advise entrepreneurs. Right? Easily. But the way they think and the way entrepreneurs think is very different.
Yeah.
So if you, when I was doing my first startup, we had some of the most intelligent people advising us, and they were extremely well-meaning people who really wanted us to succeed, who were advising us. Unfortunately, they had a completely corporate background. And the advice, while well-meaning, was 180 degrees opposite to what we should have done. Right? And this was 2005, and that was the state of entrepreneurial advice in India at that point, right? So, struggled through that. So, really, my feeling is we don't want people who have not been entrepreneurs, who have not been through the journey in some shape or form, providing advice to entrepreneurs, right? They can provide a scaffolding. They can say, listen, these are some ways to move forward, right? But at each step, are they able to provide the right advice? I've heard horrible advice. So I don't think 98% of people are qualified to give advice.
I think it's a lot like for you to teach swimming, you have to know swimming.
Yeah.
So
the issue is that we don't have that many qualified entrepreneurs who are available to come back to the campus.
The problem.
So I think we have to break it up into 2 parts. One is the skills of entrepreneurship people can teach.
Yeah.
But the advice during an entrepreneurial journey cannot be taught to someone else. So if you separate it out, I think that becomes a much easier thing for entrepreneurs to do only that part.
We will be just doing a very small portion.
Okay, so I think we had a very interesting
No, I'm just sharing one experience. This regarding the professor and the, I don't want to take names, but I completely agree to what Prasanna says that if you are not entrepreneur, you are not supposed to teach. You can do a kind of a supplementary or complementary work, and because the sense of credibility in terms of the student, in terms of appreciating the advice, I mean that falls apart when the teacher starts teaching it. So as a kind of a mandatory stuff in the VNIT, we said only entrepreneurs to teach. But what has happened that we asked the interested professors to attend the course completely. So they were part of the course. Every period they were asked to attend. What helped in a manner was we have the incubation center. Now they are at least started asking right questions in terms of evaluating the progress of the startups. Otherwise, it used to be like, submit a kind of a report, and it's kind of a thesis kind of the report that was analyzed and it was to be passed on. Now, at least, as he has rightly pointed, the right questions are being asked, not that they are advising. So, in our course, what we are asking is to teachers to attend, and also the evaluation part. So, evaluation part is also the part of this. So, what happens is slowly you are getting them to a speed of at least as a supporting, not as a main.
Yeah, just last one point. I think I just need to clarify one thing. Entrepreneurship is a behavior. So it's not that the faculty need to be entrepreneur himself. Start a business to teach entrepreneurs, which will be very difficult in that part. So faculty need to be entrepreneurial in behavior so that he can actually imbibe or motivate the student to be entrepreneurial in their area.
So I think, yeah, please.
So in institutions and all that, I think at least 20-25% of faculty members in India who have businesses happening outside. It is just that they don't reveal it because they can't. Second, even if they try to do something with the student, then again comes down to the paradox part of it. So I think, sir, if there is an enabling policy, then like how the CSIR has now permitted the scientists in terms of, I think certain things of having a certain percentage of people who faculty, even if they are running a business outside, I think there's more that if you just remove that disclosure saying that I'm not earning money from any other business, it is sufficient. I think we get a lot of faculty who will come in as mentors. I'm very sure about it.
All the disclose and also pay the taxes, no problem.
I think you'll still find people. You'll still find people because I'm very sure, sir, that they please talk about it.
IIT is allowed, I am allowed.
I think
as long as you reveal it to the institution, you pay consulting fees, whatever percentage of it. You cannot have an executive role. You cannot do two executive roles. That's technical.
But if running a business was probably
someone else can not do.
Every teacher in several parts of the country would have become an entrepreneur.
Yes.
I know a couple of faculty members in UP, Bihar, several other institutions. They are doing everything but for teaching. That it is the sense of the purpose and the focus which is important, and entrepreneurial spirit, and it's mostly individual initiative.
It should help other people.
Institutions should facilitate the way they can. They should certainly do it. But telling that somebody having business experience necessarily will become a better mentor, better teacher, probably that is not.
So I think the best part of the session is that we have finished within an hour. So I think we should definitely pat our back for that. I'll summarize the kind of points which had come up. So one of the things was like Professor Satya said that we should have startup courses which should be continuous. Like it should not be like one fry in the pan. It should be like going all throughout the 4 years. And possibly these startup courses would be connected with incubators, just like we have done for the final year in GTU. We could be actually doing it for every year. They could also be connected to startup internship. So startup internship would help us in some of the points which were brought up. One of the things it could do is it could increase the view that the students have, so they could actually end up solving better problems, because once they go and do these internships, they would obviously understand more. It would also obviously bridge the market skill gap which we have in our academia. And possibly the other point which was brought is like startup statistics should be glamorized just like placement statistics. Possibly that's going to help maybe get a few more colleges to push their students for startups. Something else which we have actually discussed a lot is like about the faculty. So maybe if the faculty is not an entrepreneur, maybe there could be programs and some kind of an accreditation for the faculties if they sort of gone through a certain courses by or some kind of accreditation by AICTE. then they could be allowed to run e-cells or the incubators in their own colleges. So this might just open up the door. And then possibly some of the ways in which they could be accredited is that if they've taken non-executive roles in other companies. So I think this sort of addresses some of the points that we have brought up in the session, and I think thank you for everybody to be here, and we should now move to the next session. So,
any question? Can we raise a question?
I think we would move to the next session because
that is related to the very vital topic you raised, faculty.
We have a session.
No,
we have a session.
There is this session and
there is a waiting. There is a session.
I would love to, but
there is a separate session today only.
But all students were targeted by faculty. That's why they get I have a question only very open for the entire day. Can anyone name the mentor of Mark Zuckerberg? Whether he is a businessman or faculty? Or second?
We'll put it to one that question.
No, what second? Say Kiran Majumdar, our mentor, is a faculty or freelancer or from business?
So I'll request Shukla sir to please present a token of appreciation to Yash. Saxena sir.